Well, hello and welcome all you listeners to our webcast today, Millionaire Strategies with Carolita Oliveros. And we're going to talk about a new year, of course, and of the upcoming new year and our strategies. She's going to talk about strategies in that webinar. So I hope that you all are ready to receive Carolita Oliveros. Carolita, she is an author, speaker, and an international business attorney, focused on working with clients in international business, e-commerce, international manufacturing, distribution and marketing of products and services, technology and intellectual property protection, real estate investment, and social endeavors. And she also holds a bachelor's degree, just that you know who she is. I'm reading that out for you. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Florida, US, of course, a master's degree from the University of Texas in Austin, and a Juris Doctor from the University of Arizona College of Law in the US. She, in the during past 25 years, actually, her accomplishments include faculty instructor in the Maguire Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Arizona, Tucson, and the Entrepreneurship Program of Thunderbird, American Graduate School of International Management. She also is an instructor at Pima College, teaching courses on business law, managing as well a non-profit organization, and finance faculty member for the Best Brilliant Ideas Business Plan contest in 2010 and 2011. Also author of Courses of Leading a Non-Profit Organization, instructor and co-author of the Rich Dad Personal Finance course, which she co-authored for the Rich Dad Company, and founder and author developer of seminars, workshops, educational materials, and coaching programs on recession-proof financial strategies and recession-proof investment strategies. Ms Oliveros is co-chair at the Arizona District Export Investment Strategies in Tucson. She also is co-chair of the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, board member of Planet Coexist in Tucson, and co-founder of Momentum for Women. Isn't that great? She's the past chair of the Arizona World Trade Fair and past chair of the Tucson Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce International Trade Committee, among many other numbers to list. Well, I don't know, Carolita, where you take the time from, but this is impressive. So we really want to, take our pens and take our notepads, listen and learn. So with that, I introduce you now to Bill Rowell, who is going to introduce then Carolita Oliveros, and he's going to wish you, of course, a great, happy New Year 2018. Thank you, and I hope to see you all tomorrow on our presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Claudia. I really appreciate you opening up tonight's call and introducing Carolita Oliveros. I want to personally thank Carolita. I mean, for the last year, in fact, for the last, it must be nearly 4 years, I believe, Carolita has been providing her services, her skills, and you just heard her accolades that Carolita has achieved over many years. I mean, you could have a webcast just on that itself, to be quite honest. But really, Carolita, I want to really thank you for taking the time out, your generous time to actually offer your services and to share your knowledge and your skills. You're an international traveler, you're an international entrepreneur, and to be able to share your experience as an international attorney with our members around the world, I really do appreciate that. And I want to thank all of our members for the past year. 2017 has been a pretty awesome year so far. I think 2018 is going to be a very, very exciting year. And I think this webcast that Carolita is going to be touching on, speaking about intentions, how to manage your intentions. What are your intentions for 2018? What were they for 2017? Do they roll over into 2018? How do you deal with them? How do you manage them? How do you have accountability processes? So I think Carolina is going to bring a lot to the table in today's presentation. But for me, I'm here in Dubai. I want to thank everyone again for 2017. I look forward to, we're partners with you. We support each other. Look forward to a great 2018. I want to wish you all a fun, safe, and very prosperous 2018. And we're going to see you on the other side in a couple of days, won't we? But back over to you, Carolita. And once again, thank you so much.
Bill, thank you. And it's just always my pleasure to be involved with you and to be involved with Swissco Global and doing these webinars. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Thank you. Well, let's get started, folks. This is going to be exciting because what I want to share with you today are some new ways, maybe not new, let's just say they're different ways. It's a different perspective on how we're going to approach 2018. So we've been talking about thinking big. That's been the keynote throughout, I think, all of the years that I have been working with Swiss Gold Global. And then we expanded so that we're not just thinking big, we're thinking exponentially, because as you know, the world today is exponential. It's no longer big. I mean, we are one giant economy. We do business with one another. You put up a website, you're in the international marketplace, whether you actually intended to be or not. So we have to be exponential in the way that we think. I've suggested to you that you take a bold approach. Step out there, do some things you've never done before, and be strategic about it. So we're going to take those concepts that we've been talking about all of this year. We're going to look at the little project we did for last time, because we finished up on part 2 of the Walmart case study. And I gave you a project just to go back and look at some of the unique features that you gained from that case study and describe how you would use Sam Walton's 10 rules for building a business, because that was one of the things we went through. And then my final question to you last time in November was, what's your dream? You know, only you know that. But have you really thought about it? And how committed are you to manifesting that dream, to making it happen, to having it, not wanting it, but having it? So let's just review quickly some of the things that we've talked about, because I want to help you draw together all of the pieces that we've been looking at throughout this whole year of 2017, because it forms a context for you. I have been working to help you see all kinds of new things and how they might apply to you, your life, your family, your business, and how those contexts and concepts work together. We looked at how to think and do in an exponential and a bold and a strategic way. We talked about how to build and have exponential success. That was really what those 2 case studies were focused on. McDonald's and Walmart are probably 2 of the largest international successes that we have access to, that we could look at for guidance. And how did they do it? What did they do? How did they strategize it? So we talked about the case studies, Walmart and McDonald's, and then we talked about evaluating all kinds of different business strategies. McDonald's is a franchise. Walmart is a retail. Okay, those are 2 business models. And we talked about how to grow without reinventing the wheel. And essentially what I mean by that is, if you're going to expand your business, but you don't want to keep pouring more and more money into it, then how have the big companies done that? How have they grown to be international success stories without reinventing something that's already out there? The value of asset protection. That applies regardless of whether you're talking about your personal assets or your business assets. How do you protect those assets so that you can continue to grow them as part of your wealth plan? How do you monetize intellectual property? We looked at all kinds of ways that the big corporations are doing that. You can do the same thing. You can take your intellectual property and turn it into a book. That's a piece of intellectual property, and you can monetize that because people buy the book, or you get royalties off of the book. So that's a way to monetize your intellectual property. Now, how to expand internationally? One of the things that we took a long look at, and it was really obvious by the time we got through with the Walmart case study, about how Walmart, as well as Amazon, as well as all of these other companies that are on the world's 10 largest companies, and others as well, obviously, but they've all utilized a similar strategy. When you expand internationally, you acquire. You do it through acquisition. You don't go and reinvent the wheel and start a company just like the company that's right down the street. You acquire the company right down the street if that's what you want to do in terms of adding to your assets. That's certainly what Amazon has done throughout its history, ever since the beginning. I think I shared with you the fact that when I was teaching in the entrepreneurship program at the University of Arizona, one of our entrepreneurship teams started a business plan for auction sites. And 4 years later, Amazon bought their business and incorporated it into the existing Amazon structure, because Amazon didn't want to go out and reinvent what they had already very successfully done. So acquisition is a major player in this expansion internationally context. And how do you monetize your brand? Well, your brand is how you're known. I mean, our names are our brand. If you want to look at it from a personal point of view, the name of your company or whatever the name of your product is, and that whole branding schematic, the colors you use, you know, whether you have a slogan attached to it, do you use music to talk about your brand? There are all kinds of ways to monetize your brand. The most interesting thing that has happened this year, and I think it's at the forefront of all of our minds, is the absolute explosion of exponential technologies. Things that we were talking about last January as they might happen in 2017, well, it's no longer that they might happen. Everything we talked about, I went back and looked at the 3 months that we spent looking at exponential technologies from January through March of this year. And it was amazing to me to review that information and to see what's already happened. We're not projecting it anymore. It's already happening. Elon Musk is already firing off rockets. Uber is already putting self-driving cars on the street in certain cities around the world. You know, these are disruptive technologies. And by disruptive, we mean that it disrupts what the old pattern was in terms of, in the case of Uber, in terms of taking a taxi cab everywhere. Instead, now we talk about taking an Uber. And now we can even talk about, in certain locations, taking a self-driving Uber. So all of these things, all of these exponential technologies have just really changed the face of the world that we live in. How do we use these? how we use them in our own lives, how we use them in our professions and our businesses. I'll give you another example. We've talked a lot about blockchain. We've talked about cryptocurrencies, and obviously that's something that all Swiss Gold Global members are very tuned into and excited about. Well, those are disruptive technologies. So how can you use that to your advantage in your business, in your personal life? As all of you know, I'm an attorney. And the interesting thing about law is that we're going blockchain. I never thought I'd live to see that day. You know, that wasn't even in our vernacular 5 years ago. And now we're putting contracts on the blockchain. So it happens everywhere. None of us are exempt from it. Robotics is the same way. Robotics is entering the field of law. I guarantee you that a robot, artificial intelligence, can read thousands of pages of legal text, case law, new cases coming down from the US Supreme Court, etc. Artificial intelligence can read that and compile it all much, much faster than I can. I don't even want to have to compete, to be quite honest. I mean, it's exponentially so far out of my ability to do it as fast as the robots do it. So here's your key question. Excuse me. How do I, or should I, use exponential thinking, exponential technology, and take exponential action in my plan to create wealth? So boil it down to you and look at these different elements and see how you're using them or how you could use them to expand your wealth plan. What's your answer? You don't need to say it out loud, but you do need to answer it. Write it down on a piece of paper or put it on your iPad or put it in your phone notes. But give it consideration and come up with what you think your answer is. Because when you know your answer, then you'll be able to look at what your dream is. And we're going to talk about the difference between willpower and commitment in a few minutes. So here I'm using the word committed, and I'm doing it on purpose. How committed are you to manifesting your dream? It's a simple question. Only you have the answer. So let's start taking a look at what my perspective is, and it's a little bit different for 2018 and beyond, because I'm not just talking about 2018. I want you to look out beyond the coming year and see where the flow is. So I'm going to give you some ideas. They're both traditional and non-traditional. Pardon me. Obviously, it's up to you what you can use and what you don't want to use, or what doesn't work for you. And that's okay, because we can't all be the same. We don't want to all be the same, actually. That'd be pretty boring. But I want to look at what we do when we set goals. If we do it correctly, it could be very helpful. And I'm not here to tell you not to set goals. Pardon me. I've had a bit of a sinus thing going on, and it looks like it's raising its head right in the middle of this broadcast. I believe in goals like I think probably most people do, but I have a different take on goals. And the fact that they have to be set up correctly, and they're not always. Because if they're not set up correctly, then sometimes we wind up in a situation where our goals become very limiting to us. They become confining, and we wind up back in the box. Instead of thinking out of the box, we wind up creating the box around ourselves again because we are adhering so rigidly to a set of goals. We can look at that differently. Goals don't have to be limiting. They don't have to be confining. You know, the standard line, and you will hear it all this coming weekend. You know, you will joke with your friends and your family. Everybody will be setting their New Year's goals. And that's wonderful because it helps us to focus. It helps us to get in tune with what we think may be happening in the coming year. It helps us to sit down and look at our plan, look at what the plan was for last year and how many of the projected outcomes actually turned into realities. That's all really good to do that kind of assessment so that you know where you were and you can look at where you want to go. But so often what happens is people don't follow through. Many times we have a tendency, because it's a comfort level, to fall back into the old ways and the old patterns. You know, you get all excited, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks down the road, you either become distracted and you lose interest in the goals that you set, or, you know, all kinds of things come up. I mean, it's called life. And if we're not really focused on it, almost to the point of being myopic in vision so that we don't see anything else, we just see the goal and we've got to get to that goal, or we've got to achieve that objective. There are all kinds of gurus in the self-help field and personal development who do excellent trainings on how to set a goal, how to write an objective. But it's a format, it's a structure. And I think the thing that we need to keep reminding ourselves is that we need to expand that concept. We need to take that context that we have formed the goal in and start looking at how do we achieve these? None of the actions that we just looked at. Becoming disinterested, you know, losing track of the goals because other things are distracting us and we're too busy doing other things. All of those things that we just talked about. None of those types of actions achieve the outcome that you desire, that you really desire. So what do you need to let go of if you want to be successful, if you don't want to be held back? What is it that you need to let go of? And this is an interesting article. I'm going to just share this with you because I think that this particular writer did a very good job of giving you some ideas of things that you need to give up in order to achieve the success that you really do want. You need to give up on unhealthy lifestyles. An unhealthy lifestyle can literally have a very sad ending if you let it go on too long. And that's unfortunate because that can be changed and you can let go of that. You can start eating good foods and healthy foods. You can start exercising. You can start getting enough sleep. And I'm guilty of that. I don't get nearly enough sleep. So you need to create a balance in your life that allows you to maintain a healthy lifestyle. You can give up on short-term mindset. And that's where I think all of these structured goals fall. I think that we get so focused on writing the objective according to the rules and setting the goal according to a pre-construct that someone who's teaching a goals class has told us that we have to use, that we create for ourselves this short-term mindset. So this writer says, give up on that mindset. Give up on playing small. Isn't that what I've been telling you for years now? We get caught up in playing small. And then we have a whole set of excuses about why we're still playing small and not expanding exponentially and not thinking big and not being strategic about our decisions. Let go of that playing small mindset. Let go of all those excuses. Something that's related to that is the fixed mindset. Oh, it can only be done this way. It's always been done this way, therefore it has to be done this way in the future. Well, that may or may not pay dividends. Because if you look at 2017, if you started this year with a fixed mindset about how life was going to proceed and what the opportunities were that were going to be available to you in this year, then you really had a fixed mindset that did not serve you well, because everything changed. Everything changed. All of the exponential technologies, all of the disruptive technologies, they've all impacted us to one degree or another in our personal lives, our daily lives, in our businesses, in our jobs. Give up on believing in the magic bullet. Oh, well, I'm going to become an overnight success. This is going to happen and I'll become an instant success. Well, the famous story about that is that you worked really hard for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, and then you became an overnight success, because you were discovered. But it took years worth of work and dedication and commitment to get to the point where you could become an overnight success. Give up on your perfectionism. I love this because I tend to be a perfectionist in some ways. Everything does not have to be perfect. If you waited for everything to be perfect, you would never take a step forward. We do not live in a perfect world. We as human beings are not perfect beings. So we proceed ahead in good faith. We proceed ahead with confidence. We proceed ahead knowing that we're going to do the best that we can do, and that will be good enough. Don't mire yourself down with wanting to be perfection before you ever do anything, because you'll never get off the ground if that's the case. How many of us relate to multitasking? I assume everybody has your hand in the air. Give up on the multitasking. The studies show, and there are many studies from major institutions, major universities all over the world, that multitasking doesn't really work as well as you think it does. It's very difficult to segment your mind to be totally focused on 4 or 5 different tasks at the same time. I know that we do 2 or 3 things at a time, and the question that I ask myself after I get through doing that is, did I really do them all well? Because I was not 100% focused on one of them when the other 2 things were going on. Because sometimes that means that you're trying to listen out of one ear with one conversation. You've got your eyes looking at something you're reading, and then you're doing something on the computer on the other side. Well, my guess is that you've probably missed a fair amount of content out of that conversation. And whether or not you've been able to do the other 2 things 100% well is something that I'm guessing the answer is you probably didn't do as well as you could have if you had been 100% focused on something. So if you can't let go of multitasking altogether, then cut it down. Start looking at what your performance is when you're multitasking. Are you doing justice to everything? And if you're not, then you may want to take a step back and reconsider that. Give up your need to control everything. How many times do we say, oh, I don't want to be around this person or that person, or I don't like my boss because they always try to micromanage everything I'm doing? Well, that's somebody who can't let go of control. So give up your need to control. Give up on saying yes to things that don't support your goals. You know, that's another thing. The world is so busy and it is so full of interesting ideas. And it's difficult sometimes to say no, because people come to you with good ideas and not so good ideas and want you to participate in it, or want you to contribute money to it, or time, or effort. And is it really something that will serve you and catapult you to your next level? More than likely not. There may be a few times that it happens when synergistically there is a match. So look at that carefully and give up on saying yes to things that don't support you. Give up the toxic people. And I added to that, and the toxic environment or the situation you're in. Because there are all kinds of toxicity in our lives. You know, whether it's people that we work with, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's our work environment, or even going out to dinner and you wind up in a situation where you've got some people at a table near you who have been drinking too much and they are really loud and rowdy, and you can't even hear yourself think, much less hold a conversation with the person that's across the table from you. So, you know, there are all kinds of toxic environments. So give up on the toxic people because they're not serving your life, and just remove yourself. And we're going to talk about this in greater detail. Remove yourself from the toxic environment or the situation that you're in, or change it. If you can't remove yourself, then change it in some way so that it becomes non-toxic to you. This next one is one that I know that all teenagers grapple with, and I think that we as adults, even though we sometimes say, oh, I got beyond that years ago, give up your need to be liked by everyone. I can tell you that as an attorney, I had to let go of that one 30 years ago. Because for starters, many people, whether they know me personally or not, don't like me just because of my profession. And it's usually, that conclusion is usually based on erroneous information, or they had a bad experience with an attorney at some point in their lives. And so now they dislike everybody who says that he or she is an attorney. So, You know, you have to have a thick skin sometimes to do the things that you want to do that serve you, but may not serve everyone else. And I'm not talking about being selfish, I'm talking about being realistic. If you waited for everybody to like you before you ever took a step forward, it's just like perfectionism. You would never make the first step, because I just don't believe it happens. I don't believe that you will ever be liked by everybody you know. Give up wasting time. And I said, and procrastinating. They're probably one and the same thing. But a lot of times we procrastinate and we don't see that as wasting time. We think we're doing valuable things while we're procrastinating. So however you define those words, give up on both of them. So now I want to take you, now that we've talked about what you can give up, I want to add a couple of things to that, because I want you to take a close look at all the clutter in your lives. What are you holding on to that's cluttering up your thoughts, cluttering up your mind, your home office, your home and your office, your car, your relationships, your emotional stability? I mean, there are all kinds of things that create clutter in our lives, which we may or may not realize or define as clutter. But all that chatter that's going on in the background, all the computer programs in your life that are playing in the background, whether you're consciously aware of them or not, start delving into that clutter and then let it go. And related to that is give up your toxic thoughts. We've talked about this so many times, and not only with me, but you've talked about it with all of our other speakers on Swiss Gold Global, all of the other webinar training that you've taken. Bob Proctor talks about it extensively, about the toxic thoughts in our head, the self-denial, the self-criticism, all of that. Those are all just toxic thoughts. You don't need those. They will stop you dead in your tracks if you allow them to take over. So let all of that go. Grab hold of your confidence. Grab hold of your positive outlook on life. Grab hold of the fact that you are a unique human being with gifts and talents galore, and that you can accomplish anything and everything you want to accomplish. The whole construct here is that in order to allow all of these new ideas and the new possibilities and all of these new opportunities for success, in order to have all of that, not just want it, because remember, we've talked about the difference between wanting it and having it. So in order to have all of that, you've got to make room for it. If you're so cluttered up with all of this other stuff, then you don't have room to allow these new ideas and allow all of these new possibilities and the new opportunities. You've got to clean out all of that old stuff and let go of what's stopping you. And I'm saying all of this in preparation for how do we get to a different perspective on 2018 going forward. Because if you're dragging along all this old baggage with you into 2018, then 2018 is probably going to turn out just like 2017 did for you. And maybe that means that you didn't get all of the outcomes you were hoping for or that you desired. So if it's stopping you, get rid of it. Make a decision. It's really that simple. Make a choice, make a decision, and let it go. You know, there's an age-old wisdom. I've heard it all my life, and you probably have too. How do you ever get from point A to point B successfully? You do it by knowing who you are, the authentic you, not the you that you role play in all of these different situations. Because I think that all of us have multiple yous or me's or I's. You know, we're one person when we're talking to our family members. We're another person when we're at the office. We're another person when we're dealing with clients. You know, we've got all of these different personas. So you need to wade through those and really take a look at who you are, who the authentic you is. Underneath all of those different personas, there's a real you there. And who is that? And know what it is you want. I can't tell you how many times I've done seminars and said to people, okay, take out a sheet of paper and fold it lengthwise, in half lengthwise, so that you've got two columns. And let's start by writing down all the things we want. And then I look out over the room and I see a bunch of glassy stairs, and I see papers that have nothing written on them, or maybe some doodles, but not a list of what they want. But when I say, okay, in the other column, write down all the things you don't want. And boy, people start writing frantically, because we tend to see what we don't want instead of seeing what we truly want. I've encountered very few people over the years who really, truly knew what they wanted and could verbalize that to me. I've had hundreds upon hundreds of people, if not thousands, who could tell me nonstop what they didn't want, but did not seem to have a clue about how to boil all of that down to get to what they really do want. Until you know what it is you want, you can't set the stage and create the right environment to bring in the conditions that will make achieving your goals inevitable. Now, this really gets to the crux of the perspective that I want to share with you on how to take a different approach to 2018 and beyond. Look at that again. Until you know what you really want, you're not going to be able to set up the right environment, to set the stage, to create the conditions that are necessary for achieving your goals and making that achievement inevitable. Now, that's a tall order. The word inevitable is a big word. It means it will happen without a doubt. I think it's pretty typical with all of us, and I include myself as well. It's pretty typical that we try to do it the hard way. We try to achieve our goals the hard way. We have been literally brainwashed by well-meaning people, and those well-meaning people could include family, that could include teachers, the culture that we grow up in, because all of that teaches us to overcome whatever the current situation is. And in order for us to overcome anything, as you know, you have to have a whole lot of willpower. And a lot of times we're short on the willpower part. We may or may not have a lot of willpower, especially about certain topics. So if you really want to do it the hard way, then continue to try and overcome all of the situations and all of the different environments in your life that are disagreeable to you in whatever way, to whatever degree, large or small. Instead, you can modify the environment. You can set up the conditions and modify it. And that means that you can do it incrementally. It doesn't mean that you have to create 100% change overnight. But you're back in control, because as long as you're in the space of having to overcome something and exercise tremendous willpower to do it, you are not in control. You have relinquished control and given it to something else, the situation or other people or whatever it is. But once you turn that around, just flip it over and recognize that if you were to change the environment, then magical things start to happen. Because willpower is truly the slowest and most ineffective strategy for change. It will not get you there. Willpower will never allow you to make quantum leaps in your life. And it's through the quantum leaps, of course, that we experience the most growth, the most adventure, the most excitement, the most exponential outcomes that we may not have even ever imagined. So if you're going to depend on willpower to overcome everything in your life that's not desirable, or that's not what you want, that you want to change, you will never get there, because that's a linear path and it takes forever. Willpower is the uphill battle. It's for people who have not made up their minds. So they're just going to stick it out and complain to all their friends and family about how this is so difficult and how they have to. I mean, it's just like the people who are on one weight loss diet after another. Well, you've just got to have willpower. You can't eat chocolate, or you can't have this, or you can't have that. Well, change the environment, change the way you look at it. You know, I saw a joke recently about two panhandlers, and both of them were doing the same thing, but one panhandler was making $2 or $3 a day, and the other panhandler was making hundreds of dollars a day. And finally, the panhandler who was still living in poverty, still in the same set of circumstances, struggling on just $2 or $3 a day, said to the other guy, who by now is living in a beautiful home. He's driving a Mercedes. He's got all kinds of toys that he's been able to buy. His family is doing well. And so the first panhandler says, I don't know how you did it. Tell me what your secret is. And he said, well, look at your sign. What does your sign say? And so the guy looks at his sign and it says, well, you know, I need help. Please, please give me a quarter or whatever you can spare. And he says, well, that's your problem. And so the first man says, well, what does your sign say? And he says, all I need is $10 and I'm out of here. And everybody handed him $10 and he's a multimillionaire. So, it's all in your perspective. At the end of the day, the thought that I want you to really take away from this discussion is that set a goal that allows you to engage the universe of possibilities that exist. Allow yourself to see them. Allow yourself to participate in them. Not all of them are going to be right for you, and that's okay. You can pick and choose. You have the power to do that. But if you confine yourself year after year, time after time, to setting goals within a rigid, narrow framework and having to meet 6 objectives in order to get to this goal, and then that puts you to the next 6 objectives and the next goal in a linear fashion, if that's what you're depending on and you're using your willpower to overcome everything, then you will never see the universe of possibilities. If you had said to Elon Musk or to Sir Richard Branson or to the guys who formed Google or the guys who formed PayPal, or pick a company, the McDonald brothers, Sam Walton. Look how many times people said to Sam Walton, oh, you'll never be able to put a discount store in a small town. Well, that was not true. These were people who allowed themselves to see the world of possibilities and to say, I can go after this. I can change whatever is in my immediate environment that's holding me back, modify it in whatever way is necessary so that it allows me to do a quantum leap into new possibilities, infinite possibilities. There are infinite opportunities out there. People always said to me, I don't see how you took a quantum leap between working with children who have language and learning disabilities to becoming an international lawyer. That's a quantum leap. There's no connection there at all. And I thought, from the outside world, maybe that looks like a quantum leap. To me, it looked like the next step. Because everything just fell into place. Once I realized how big the universe of possibilities really is and how much of it I could put my hands on, there was no stopping me. So all of the naysayers in my life just had to take a 10-step back and just watch me go, because I was going without them. If it meant leaving some of them behind, which was unfortunate, but sometimes that happens, then I left them behind because I was not going to allow anything to stop me from participating in this incredible world of international. And it's even bigger than that now, because if Elon Musk and all of these other guys, Sir Richard Branson and all of the people who are creating rockets that will take us to other planets, you know, we haven't even seen, we don't even know where the edge of this universe is. We don't even know where the edge of all of the universes is. Science is now admitting that because it is so infinite we cannot see it. It's not linear. So be bold in reinventing yourself, because isn't that what we're talking about? How many times have you reinvented yourself? I know how I've reinvented myself at least 8 or 10 times over the years. So be bold about that. Allow yourself to do it. It's exciting. Sometimes it's a little scary, but that's okay. Practice having exponential vision. You know, like Superman or one of these superheroes. Don't be myopic in vision. Remember that your goals are evolutionary. They are not static. They are not linear. They leapfrog. They grow. They expand. And what happens is that once you allow yourself to take quantum leaps, what you discover is that the quantum leaps actually flow effortlessly. They just come effortlessly when you create conditions to allow yourself to change. And that's how your goals happen. That's how I approach 2018. Do I have little things that I want to accomplish? Yes, of course I do. And you do too. But that's not the overarching goal for my life in 2018. My overarching goal is to allow the quantum leaps to come in, to allow the context of my life to expand in a positive way, to create the conditions where I allow myself to change, to meet all of these new possibilities that I get so excited about, that I want to participate in. And you can do the same thing. In fact, it's not just your job, it's your obligation to yourself. So approach 2018 with a new strategy for achieving and setting goals. Get out of the old mindset, the fixed mindset that it has to be done according to a set of rules. It does not. Embrace change. And I know for a lot of people, change is a scary word. We get used to being in our comfort zones. We get used to all of our creature comforts. I know. Ask Claudia. I just told her this morning, when I go to Panama, I want to stay in a place that provides me with my creature comforts. I don't want to feel like I'm having to camp out in the middle of Panama City. We all have our creature comforts. There's nothing wrong with that. But allow yourself to think bigger. You know, do I have to stay in a Holiday Inn? Or can I stay at the Ritz? I choose the Ritz. So think big, think exponentially. Okay, here's your project. And we are going to come back and talk about this in January because I want to see how you're doing. How big is your dream? So we've gone from what is your dream to how big is it? Because I'm going to assume that by now you have wrapped your arms around what it is. And how committed are you to manifesting it? Make a little list, write it down. You know, whether it's on paper or in your iPad or in your notebook, whatever it is. What do you have to give up if you want to be successful? And you know what the definition of success is for you. And describe how you apply this non-traditional strategy that I've walked you through today. Describe how you apply this non-traditional strategy to yourself. You know, all areas, to your relationships, to your business, to your school, whatever it is. And with that, I wish all of you the most wonderful new year. We will meet again in 2018, and I will be so excited to hear how your New Year's resolutions are forming. What you're doing with looking at 2018 in a different way than maybe you have looked at other years in the past. So have a big, bold, exponential New Year's. Bill and Claudia, thank you so much again, and we'll be talking next month. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at my email address, oliveros@flash.net, or you can go to my website, www.carolitaoliveros.com. And I welcome any kind of feedback that you have, and particularly about how you're going to set your goals. And I use goals in quotation marks. How you're going to set your strategy for the new year and beyond. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carolita. That was a really great webinar, and we certainly learned a lot. You can't hear enough, you know, these teachings, because they really, really are, you know, you really take something home of that. And I hope that's what people do. They take something home of that, and they do some action on that. So thank you so much, and a happy new year. Happy new year to everybody. I'm not sure if Bill is still on the call. We want to close this down. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carolita. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Great input. Gets me really thinking about my intentions for 2018. Thank you, Claudia, for the great input you've put in over, and leadership you've actually exalted in over many years, but in particularly 2017. And for all our members, we would not be here without you. And so we owe our gratitude to all of you, and we wish you a wonderful and prosperous 2018. Get into the project Carolita just offered you, because if you do the work, it will change you. It will revolutionize from within. And when you change from within, you change your outside circumstances and environment. So with that, Carolita, thank you so much. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you together in Claudia in Panama.
Yes, I hope so.